I'm Simon Hurst. I helped write the Outlook course. And this afternoon we're going to be looking at email management in Outlook. We're not going to be looking particularly at sort of sending and receiving individual emails, but just how to manage email, how to find things you want, how to make email help you work productively rather than interrupt you and reduce your productivity. We're going to be using Outlook 2013, so as you can see that's Outlook 2013 on the screen. It's not that different from Outlook 2010. There's a few cosmetic differences, but I think pretty much everything we do will be the same in 2010. One thing that might be different for your systems is how you're connected to your email server. I'm connected to Microsoft Exchange. You might have a POP or an SMTP or an IMAP connection. IMAP in particular doesn't have all the capabilities that we'll be looking at, particularly when we look at follow-up flags. The full set of follow-up flags aren't available with IMAP. So if some stuff isn't there, it might be because of your the way you're connected to your server rather than anything else. So I'm going to start off by looking at how you control the way in which Outlook emails interrupt you. Just before I do, we're going to look at the addresses for contributing via Twitter. So here I've just used Outlook Notes. Given I'm in Outlook, I thought I'd use Outlook. So you can send questions and share comments using the hashtag filtered webinars, and after the webinar the recording will be made available at learn.filtered.com/webinars. Right, back to Outlook itself, and we'll look at mail. There's our mail screen, and we're going to see how Outlook alerts you when a new email message arrives. I'm going to go to File and to Options, and within File Options, obviously you have all of your Outlook options. We're going to look at Mail options, not surprisingly, and at the moment we're going to look at Message Arrival. So you can have Outlook alert you in a variety of ways when a new email message arrives, and they can vary in how intrusive they are. So perhaps the most intrusive is to play a sound every time a new email arrives. You can briefly change the mouse pointer. You can show a subtle envelope icon in the taskbar, or rather less subtly, you can display a desktop alert. And if you do use a desktop alert, there's a set of desktop alert settings. You can decide how long the desktop alert appears for and how clear or solid it is, the degree of transparency. Now you'll notice that I've got all of them turned off, and the reason for that is because I use two screens and I tend to just leave Outlook open on one screen, so I work on the other screen and I just look across to Outlook as and when to check whether any urgent emails have arrived. Really depends on how you work, but I think for most people you really don't want to be interrupted every few seconds by Outlook playing a bugle charge or something like that. So it's a good idea to look at these settings and adjust them so that they work with the way that you work. One other thing you might consider is the out of office setting. So obviously out of office is for when you're out of the office, when you're on holiday, stuff like that, but there's no reason you can't use it when you're in the office. So if you go to File, in the info section you have the automatic replies out of office section, and that lets you, as you're probably well aware, respond to people either inside or outside. You can use different messages for both when you're not available to deal with their emails in person, and you can set a time range as well for that. So perhaps if you have got something urgent to do, you really don't want to be interrupted, but you don't want everybody to think you're ignoring their emails, you can just set up an out of office alert saying busy at the moment, but I'll be able to sort out your issue in a couple of hours time. So having decided how emails are going to interrupt you or not interrupt you, let's now have a look at how we can view emails. So here we've got the basic mail screen. Some things you'll already know well. If you want to change the way your emails are sorted, that's very straightforward. You can just click in the column headings. We'll look at some of the slightly more complicated view settings. If we go to the View ribbon tab, you'll see that at the moment I'm just seeing a list of emails. I can display a short preview of each email, so message preview here lets me display 1, 2 or 3 lines of each email. You can change that in all your mailboxes in one go, or just for this folder, which I'm doing, and you can see here the number of lines that you've requested, so you can just scan through your emails, get a quick idea of what they're all about. The more detailed way of reading your emails without opening them, of course, is to use a reading pane. So over here in the layout section, we have reading pane. We can decide whether it's not on at all, displayed at the bottom or the right, so I'll choose right. And not surprisingly, that shows us the message that we've currently got selected. There are options to do with the reading pane. So when it's displayed, if you go to reading pane options, then you can see that there are 3 main options. You can decide that items will be automatically marked as read when they're displayed in the reading pane for a given amount of time. You can mark them as read when you select another email. And you've also got this option here, single key reading using spacebar. Now, if you have to deal with a lot of emails, this can be quite a useful option. What this does, if you turn it on, is it lets you just go through a long list of emails using only the spacebar. So if you're looking at an email, if that email fits in the reading pane all on one screen, then space will mark that email as read, take you to the next email. If that's too long to fit in the screen, then space will scroll you through the email. When you get to the end, it will take you to the next email, and so on. So you can go through your whole list of emails just using the spacebar. The reading pane in recent versions, 2010 onwards I think, allows you to do more than just that. You'll see here at the top of the reading pane there are buttons to deal with your emails within the reading pane. So you can click on reply, and you can reply within the reading pane without even opening up a separate window. If you do want to open up a separate window, you can click on pop out to create an email as normal, or if you start using the reading pane and you don't want to complete your reply, discard will just cancel the reply. If this is obviously a straightforward email, if you have an email that requests some actions, such as a meeting invitation, where you could got your accept and decline options, then again they can be dealt with within the reading pane without you having to open up the email. So you can choose your option directly from within the reading pane. So that's the reading pane. Let's just turn it off to give ourselves a bit more room for the next bit. So back to our full screen. We've seen how we can just click a column heading to change the sort order. So we can change to who they were from, date order, and if we click twice, we change from ascending to descending to ascending order. Obviously, we can do that with any of the columns that are displayed, but we can also choose which columns to display. So if we want to get rid of a column, if we don't want to look at the categories column, we can just click in the column heading and drag, and you'll see the black cross appears, indicating that if we let go, the categories column will disappear. If we want to restore it or add any other columns, we can again right-click in the column heading area, and you'll see there's a thing here called the field chooser. When we use the field chooser, this will display various fields. We can choose the sort of field, so all mail fields if we wanted. I'll use frequently used fields here, and you can see our categories field is there. If I want to put it back again, I can drag it and just position it wherever I want it to be, drop it back into my header area, and I can use any other of these fields to add to the header to include them in my email view, and of course you can change the width just by dragging the columns around. Now, some of the column headings, when you click, it doesn't just do a normal sort, it actually groups. So, for example, the sort we're using here, the sent date sort, you'll see it's grouping in yesterday and older, and it will do sort of last week, that sort of thing. So it creates a group. Up here in the arrangement section of the view ribbon, you can also create groups directly. So if we group by from, as we saw earlier, then we're now grouping by who the email was from. That can be quite useful. One of the things you can do, if you do group by from and you want to go directly to a particular person, if you just type in a single key, so if I wanted to go to messages from Windows, if I press W, it will take me straight down to the W's, and if I press D, it will take me straight to the D's. So that's quite a useful feature, just to navigate quickly depending on how you've sorted or grouped your emails. So if I wanted to group by something else, there's a drop down here. I've got more things I can group by, for example, size. So now I'm grouping by size. I've got things like small, medium, large, that sort of thing. Now, you can also, if you've got lots and lots of emails and grouping helps, you can do more sophisticated grouping. If you right-click again in the heading area and choose the Group By box, then that displays this little box here showing that currently we're grouping by. We can add different groupings. So within size, we could group by category, for example. So I could drag category into. No, you can't do size and category at the same time. Let me get rid of size, because you can't do size and much at the same time. So I can just choose not to group by size. Let's get rid of that. Turn that off and go to categories, as we were talking about. And then maybe I'll choose from within category, and I could choose subject within from. So you can group by subject, in from, within category, and if you want to swap any of those around, you can just drag so that subject is now between category and from. So now we're grouping by from within subject within category, and to get rid of them we can either just drag them out of position, we can right click and choose don't group by this field. Let's just go back to our sent order, and let's just, we can rearrange columns just by dragging them around. Let's just bring back our from field, so we've got the fields we need to use, so let's just stick that there. That'll do. So now we've just rearranged our window. There's one other type of grouping that you might find useful. Again, it's a quite a recent introduction to Outlook, and that's to group as conversations. Normally when you look at your emails, if you're looking in the inbox, you just see items that have been sent to you. If you look in the sent items folder, you just see items that you've sent. And quite often, when you're exchanging emails with somebody, there'll be lots of toing and froing in the email chain, all on the same subject. When you turn on Show as Conversations, and again you can do it for all mailboxes or just for the folder you're in, Outlook rearranges your emails so that rather than just showing individual emails where lots of emails have been exchanged on a particular subject, it groups them into a conversation. You can see here this email series on sales figures has a little triangle beside it. If we click on that, and we can expand it and expand it again to show all the emails that are in that conversation, whether they be in our inbox or in our sent items. So we can follow the email trail, see what's happened in that conversation much more easily. There's more you can do with conversations. So if we go to the home ribbon, we have this cleanup option here. Now, within a conversation, quite often if people are quoting each other's emails, then you'll have the entire conversation repeated within each email. So you can use the clean up conversation option to get rid of the duplication by removing messages that are completely quoted in other messages. You can either do that for an individual conversation, for the folder, or for the folder and subfolders. If you do decide to use conversations and you do decide that cleanup is useful, then again, options is worth having a look at. File options mail, just underneath our message arrival options, we have conversation cleanup options where we can set the detailed parameters of how Outlook should clean up those email conversation chains when we tell it to. If you don't get on with the conversation view, it's very easy to turn it off. You just go back to the view ribbon, turn off show as conversations, and you're back again to your normal display of emails. Let's now have a look at how you can find emails. So it's something that that you often probably need to do. There's an email on a certain subject. You can't remember exactly when it was received, but you know it's there somewhere. And again, this is an area where Outlook has improved tremendously since 2007, I think it was, when emails started being indexed. Before that, it used to have to run through each email and see if it matched the criteria. Now emails are indexed, so when you start doing a search, it should be close to instant. So if I want some emails that have the word office in them, I can just click here in the search box. You'll see that when I do that, the search tools search ribbon appears automatically. I can type in what I'm looking for, office, and you'll see that just as I type it, brings up emails with the word office either in the header or in the body of the text. I can choose where to look for those emails. Mine is currently set to default to just looking in the current folder, so in this case just my inbox, but I can choose to look in the current folder and subfolders or the entire current mailbox, so sent items, deleted items, any individual folders I've set up, and that's now searching through a wider list of locations. And if I want to know where stuff's come from, again, I can use the field chooser. So one of the items in field chooser, if I go to all mail fields, is the in folder. If I drag in folder to the header area, that will tell me that these emails come from sent items, inbox, a folder I've set up called client, a newsletters folder, and so on. So I can see where these emails have come from. I can even go further than that, and I can choose all mailboxes. So if I've got several mailboxes rather than just one, I can look through the contents of all of them, and I can even look at all Outlook items, where it will show me any calendar items or contacts, again, that the word office is involved in. So quite sophisticated search options. I'll go back to the current folder for now. Now, sometimes the issue with searching isn't that you can't find the item you're looking for, it's that you find so many items that it's difficult to single out the ones that are relevant. So when the search tool search ribbon is displayed, you have this refine section here where you've got various things that you can use to reduce the number of emails you see. So for example, if I know that I've categorized the particular email I'm after, and we'll look at categories in a minute, as a training email, I can refine my search to look for office and something categorized as training, and then that will restrict it to those items there. And I can restrict it by time, say only show me items from last year. So all sorts of refinements you can make, and as you can see, that's entered up here in the list, shows you the syntax, and if you want to, you can just change the syntax just by text editing if you need to do that. Now, another very useful search feature, let me just, you can clear the search by clicking the cross, Another very useful search feature, particularly if you do keep a lot of emails, you do want to do frequent searches, is to use a search folder. So if I just look through my scroll bar, look through my list of folders, down here you'll see there is a search folder section, and I've set up a few search folders. Some of them are built in, so you can just use them with a single click. The idea of a search folder is it's not a real folder, but it's a virtual folder that displays items that match a search criteria. So if I right click and choose new search folder, I've got several built-in ones. So for example, I could go for large mail. And if you're working in a corporate environment and people keep nagging you to reduce the size of your mailbox because you're using up too much of your quota, then finding all your large emails is quite a good plan. So I'm not actually sure I've got any over 100. I have got a few. So here I can choose larger than, and then my search folder displays all those emails whenever I want to use it. So whatever I'm doing, I can just click on larger than, and there's all the emails that fall into that category. As you can see, most of them have attachments, just displayed without me having to go through that whole search process again. And as you can see, that was a built-in one. I can create my own, so I create a custom search folder, or I got ones that just prompt me for a particular field. So if I wanted to bring up everything that was categorized in a particular category, I could choose my category, Windows Server 2012, whatever category I want or categories I want, and then create a search folder for that to make it quick to get at my searches, at search folders. Right, just have a brief aside into the realms of junk email. Obviously, one of the things that does irritate people, does reduce their productivity, is dealing with junk email. Most people will have either an individual system or a corporate system that filters out a lot of the junk for them, but whether you want an addition to that or whether you want something instead of that, Outlook has its own junk email filters. So here in the home ribbon, we have a junk option, and we can choose for a particular email to block the sender of that email, to not block the sender of that email, if we know that we always want to get their emails, not to block any emails from that sender's whole company. Or we can look in more detail at the junk email options. So there are levels of filtering, so either none at all through to only allow emails through where you've specifically said that that sender is safe. Generally, these will send the emails that are trapped into the junk email folder, where you can then review them to make sure that it hasn't caught any emails that you actually do want to see. There is an option here to permanently delete suspected junk. Now that's quite a brave option because you'll never know whether it's actually filtered out stuff that was important to you, because it would just get rid of it directly. So I think most people find it better to send the junk through to the junk email folder so they can review it to make sure that nothing important's been caught. You can also get at all this junk stuff by right-clicking on a particular email and going to junk. Again, you can block the sender, choose to not block the sender. If you get something wrong, so if you accidentally block somebody and then you think, oh no, actually I want to get their emails, if you go to junk email options and go to the block senders list and you find that there's somebody in there you didn't mean to block, you can select them and remove them. Similarly, if you accidentally say that somebody was safe or somebody ceases being safe, you can go to the safe senders list and again select them and remove them from that list. So it's not the end of the world. If you do something the wrong way around, you can go to the junk options and retrieve the situation. Let's have a look now at managing your emails in a variety of ways. And this is really to do with how you manage your inbox. Different people manage their inbox in different ways. One way that's frequently recommended is the empty inbox approach. So whenever you visit your inbox, you deal with everything that can be dealt with quickly. So delete the stuff you know you don't need to deal with, respond to the stuff you can deal with quickly, and then maybe transfer stuff that needs to be dealt with at a later date into a particular folder. So your inbox pretty much is empty. Stuff that you need to file for another time, you send to one folder. Stuff you need to deal with in a particular way, you send to another folder. That's one way of dealing with it. And if you want to do that, obviously you're going to need folders to archive stuff into. It's very quick and easy to set up additional folders. If you want a folder within your inbox, just right-click in the inbox, choose New Folder. You can set up a folder for a particular company, whatever that is. Let's do HSBC topically. So if you've got lots of emails from HSBC, you can just drag those emails into the HSBC folder. You can select loads of emails and drag them all in one go. So quite easy to organize by folder. If you don't adopt that process of managing your inbox, you do need to have some method to know that there's not emails buried within hundreds of emails in your inbox that you should have dealt with but haven't. And one way of doing that is to use flags. So you can right-click on any email, and there's an option to follow up, and then you can choose when that email has to be dealt with. So the idea here is that when you look at your inbox, okay, there's lots of emails in there, you haven't emptied it, but you know that the only emails you need to deal with are ones that are new, that are marked as unread because you haven't looked at them, or ones that have been flagged for you to deal with later. And you can make a very specific follow-up, so you can actually say you need to remind me to do something about this email by a particular date and a particular time. So you know that even if you don't deal with that immediately, Outlook is going to pop up in the reminder window that you do need to deal with that email. Now if you just use the straightforward flags, the today, tomorrow and so on flags, then you might find it useful to display your taskbar in the to-do bar area. So if we go to to-do bar and tasks, so I've gone to, sorry, I should have said I've gone to the view ribbon, layout group, to-do bar tasks, turned on the task view here, and if I set this particular email to be followed up today, you'll see it appears in the list. It's not red because it's still today, so it's not overdue. It goes red when it's overdue. If instead of today I chose tomorrow, then you'll see it now appears in the tomorrow section. And if I decide that I've dealt with it, so clear the flag, it's removed from that list. One of the other things you can do on that right-click list, so right-click follow-up, right down the bottom, there's Set Quick Click. Easy for you to say. If you turn that on, you can choose which flag will be applied with a single click, and that single click is made in the follow-up column here. So by choosing today, if I just click in the column, that email or any other email I click automatically gets flagged as needing to be dealt with today. Right, so let's now have a look at categories. We've got categories displayed here, and categories are a very useful feature of Outlook. They're available not just to emails, but to appointments, contacts, all sorts of things. You can categorize all your Outlook content, and they're very easy to set up and use. So if I just right click on an email. See here we've got an option, categorize. I've actually got lots of categories already set up. If you've not used categories, you'll find there are some built-in ones that are just color, and when you use them it will prompt you to enter a proper description rather than just a color. Or you can go to the all categories option and you can create new categories, you can allocate multiple categories. So if I wanted a new category, and perhaps I'm going to call this budget figures, whatever, I could attach a keyboard shortcut to some of these categories if I wanted to. Then I can allocate this item to that category and to multiple other categories. So this might be business and it might be to do with development. I can attach all those categories and you'll see they're shown there in the list of categories. And just like we saw with the follow-up flags just now, in the categories down the bottom we have set quick click. So you can choose a particular category and then that can be applied just by clicking in the category column in the same way that we set up a flag by clicking in the follow-up column. And having set up categories, it's then very easy to do all sorts of things by those categories. So if we just wanted to see items belonging to a particular category, we can just click in the search box, not enter anything in the search box, but go up to the Refine section, Categorize, choose a particular category, and then we'll just see items that have been allocated to that category. So a very quick way of restricting your view of emails to just those emails that fall into a particular category that you set. You can also group by categories. So if we click on the category heading, that will group our emails by category for us. So hopefully you can still hear me. Yeah, good. Sorry, there was just a message appeared on my screen saying there might be an issue, but hopefully there isn't. Let's just go back to our normal percent view. So that's categories, very useful feature within Outlook. Now, most of what we've done so far has been relatively manual. We're now going to gradually move towards automating how we manage our email. And a sort of a halfway house towards automating email is Quick Steps. This section up here within the Home ribbon, Quick Steps. And these are, if you're used to using macros in the likes of Word and Excel, then Quick Steps are sort of like macros. They enable a series of actions to be performed with a single click. So you have some that are built in. So for example, you can choose an email, click on Move to Folder. It will prompt you to enter a folder, and you will then transfer that email, or if you had multiple emails selected, so if I select a group of emails and do the same thing, you'll see that it works on all those emails. So we select the emails, then use the Quick Step. But we can make Quick Steps work better than that. So we can create a new Quick Step. So we'll use Move to Folder. But the difference here is we can actually set the folder. So we can say we want to always use the sales folder. And we can have other actions, such as marking it as read, but then we can add further actions, choosing from all sorts of actions that we might want to do, like mark our follow-up flag as complete when we press the Quick Step. So we can create these Quick Steps, we can choose shortcuts again, and provide a help screen. And then, having created that particular Quick Step, we can then just apply that with, again, just a single click, click on that, and then that runs through that whole group of actions just with that single click. So a step towards automation, but we can go further by using rules. And Outlook rules are an excellent way of trying to ensure that Outlook does the work for us. Now, right at the beginning, I suggested you might want to turn all your alerts off. But you might have thought, well, that's all very well, but what happens if my boss or wife or something like that sends me an urgent email, how will I know that email has arrived? One of the things that rules can do is identify emails as they arrive and then take a particular action automatically. So for example, I can right click on this particular email, I can go to rules, and I can choose to create a rule for this email. The computer just slowed down there, so we'll create a rule. And I can say when an email from Dave Styles appears, in that case I do want to play a sound, and perhaps I want to display an alert. I can choose which sound I play, and that now has created a rule. So you can run the rule on all emails already in the folder. So if you were moving stuff, then that would be quite useful, because you could move all existing emails into the same folder. In this case, it would be fairly silly because we're using it to alert us when a new email arrives, so we won't run it on the folder as it is. Now that rule is set up, so next time Dave Styles sends me an email, then there'll be a beep and a message, so I'll know that their email has arrived. Rules can be more complex than that. So if we go to rules and go to manage rules and alerts, and here are some of the rules we've got set up. And if we go to create a new rule, there are some template rules that help us set up rules to process emails automatically. So we can do things like, if we've set up a folder for emails for a particular client, rather than us having to move those emails to that folder, we can set up a rule to do that automatically. Various other rules down here, but we'll just look in detail at how you set up a rule. So we can choose to apply rules either to messages as they arrive or when we send them. I'll choose apply rule on messages I receive. Go to the next step. The next step is where I set a condition or multiple conditions so that Outlook can identify particular emails. And that might be if there's a particular word in the subject or body. So as I choose each of these options, it appears down here in this window with the actual criteria shown in blue. I can click on that and then I can enter the specific word. So if I want to, maybe I want to do something with any email that uses the word opportunity, I can add opportunity to the search list, and then as emails arrive, they're scanned to see whether they have the word opportunity in them, and if they do, then the rule is triggered. I can add lots of other conditions. It has to match all of the conditions to work. What action am I going to take on it? So perhaps I want, if it's got opportunity, I want to immediately respond to it, so I could play a sound, print it out, do all sorts of things, mark it as being particularly important. I can choose how important, I can choose what sound it plays. And so on. Next stage, any exceptions. So you can choose exceptions. So if there's some particular type of email you don't want the rule to find, you can set that up in the exceptions section. And then finally turn the rule on. Again, you can run the rule on all messages already in the inbox, or you can turn it on for incoming emails. And when you've done that, you just click on finish, and that sets up the rule for you. So that's a rule on emails as they're received. There is one particular rule that I've found to be invaluable, and I use it as the sort of the finale for the webinar. And that's to do with when you send emails. Now, most of us at some point in our lives will have clicked the send button, then immediately regretted it. We might have regretted it because we'd just forgotten to attach an attachment. No great drama there. We can just apologize and send the attachment. We might regret it because we've actually sent it to the wrong person. Now, that could be quite traumatic depending on who the wrong person was and what the message was. Or somebody might have just irritated us, made us angry, and we've written quite a hot-headed reply to them, and we've sent it, and then we've suddenly thought that actually on reflection we might have been a little more moderate. So all of those things, you've sent the email, you really wish you hadn't. Generally it's too late, depending on your system, it's probably already gone. Recall option, all that tends to do is send the recipient a message saying somebody sent you an email that they really regret, and that only makes them all the keener to read it, so that doesn't tend to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply a rule on messages that we send. So we're going to choose apply a rule on messages that we send. And we're actually not going to have any conditions at all. This rule is going to apply to all messages that we send. So it will just warn us that because we haven't set a condition, it's going to apply to all messages. So we say, yes, that's fine. And then we choose our action. And the action we're going to choose is to defer delivery by a number of minutes. So we choose defer delivery by a number of minutes. Click on the blue section down there as before and set a number of minutes. Now that number of minutes is sort of up to you. Perhaps it could be linked to how long your anger lasts. So if you know it takes you 4 minutes to cool down, then maybe you'd set it to 5 minutes or whatever. So you set defer delivery to a number of minutes. On to the next stage, where you can set an exception. So this can be important if you know that sometimes you really got to send the message immediately. You don't want it to hang around for 2 minutes. So maybe you'll say that if I deliberately mark it as high importance, then it's not going to be subject to this delay. So you set it up, turn it on, so 2 minute delay. And then when you send your email, rather than going immediately, it will sit in your outbox. So let's just prove it. Let's just send an email. Send an email to Sandra. Hello. And the email sits in our inbox for a couple of minutes before it goes. So if we suddenly thought, oh, shouldn't have done that, we can go to our inbox and retrieve Sandra's email. Now, I've never known that not work, but I wouldn't sort of totally rely on that. So do be careful with the emails you send. Don't just think I can send anything because I know I've got 2 minutes to change my mind, just in case one day it doesn't work. But it is a good fallback. Saves lots of emails going out without attachments and things like that. So finishing on an Outlook rule that can change your lives and save your careers, I believe there are a few questions. I'll just have a quick look at the questions. Here we are. I have now found some questions. And somebody has asked how to set aside some emails that are really old, but you want to keep them for future reference. Well, probably either just create your own folder for them. Sometimes you have the issue that there are policies running in your organization where everything over a certain age is deleted. So what you might want to do is you can create new data files for Outlook. So here you can see I've got lots of different data files. So all of these things are different data files. And you could create your own data file, maybe sitting on your own computer rather than on your corporate system. And then any such emails that you want to keep, whatever, you could put into your own data file so they're not clogging up the email system, but you have them there to refer to as and when. Archiving, you can either sort of deal with them as we've done there, or you can set up archive policies for any folder. So if you right-click and go into properties, there are archive properties that you can set up in a folder. And if you do have archive properties set up, you'll notice that sometimes when you go into Outlook, it says, do you want to automatically archive all your options over a certain age? You can choose how those items are to be archived. So are they to be permanently deleted? Are they to be moved to another another folder or another data file. So that can all be done, or you can trigger out archives manually if you want to do so. Somebody's just asked what are the benefits of working with Outlook not online, so that you're not interrupted by emails arriving. I think you can probably manage your Outlook well enough that you can just leave it online all the time and sort out your alerts, maybe use your out of office to manage dealing with emails. Hopefully you'll be disciplined enough for that to work without actually having to go offline, so you can't receive emails. So I think leave it online, but just be disciplined. Right, I think that's pretty much our time up. Thank you very much for your attendance. I hope there were a few useful bits in there. I'm sure most people will have known at least some of it, but hopefully there were one or two things you hadn't come across there. Good luck using Outlook and managing your email and not sending those emails that you really didn't want to send. Thank you very much. Do remember, I'll just finish by reminding you of the Twitter hashtag, #FilteredWebinars, and also that you can see the recording in a few days' time at learn.filtered.com/webinars. Thank you very much for your attendance. Enjoy the rest of your days. Thank you. Goodbye.